Good evening. Welcome to the October 17th Vernon Selectboard meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the public participation section of the meeting. Sally?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have anything for public?
No.
Okay. We'll go to the minutes of October 3rd.
I didn't see anything.
I didn't either.
I actually did, sorry. And I'm not exactly sure where it is. Oh, yes, I am. On page 6, top paragraph, I put in VOSHA instead of OSHA.
See, now I did. Mine says OSHA.
Yeah, I found it, but the one that actually got posted said, had a V there.
Oh, okay.
So the one that got sent with the warning had a V, and I found it after that. So I just wanted to note it because it would still be corrected minutes.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell.
I move that we accept the minutes of October 7th, the Select Board minutes of October 17th, October 3rd, as written.
As corrected.
As corrected, sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the Select Board minutes for October 3rd as corrected. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is trouble. Okay, then we'll move on to the department head committee reports. I've been informed that Mary Beth will not be able to come in tonight. I sent you an email basically in regards to what she was coming in to speak about. Specifically, one of the police officers has resigned his position. We have 2 police officers who are currently out on either medical or disability, and that could be indefinite, and she has gone through her applications and has a recommendation for hire. I let you know who that recommendation was. Is there any discussion? How does the board feel about that? Her concern is with the loss of 3 officers. Basically, there are a couple of things coming up that she's concerned she won't have adequate staffing. She's also expressed concern that she may not be able to get the proper backup by the state police or sheriffs, because they may be experiencing some sort of deficiencies in their staff as well. I would hope she'd have been here to go into that in detail, but she isn't.
I would like to see it. We just went through this a couple weeks ago. I'd like to see it opened up for applications. And but if it's an emergency for a temporary thing, that's a different story. I don't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like it's an emergency for a temporary thing. I think, saying that the state police and the sheriffs may not have adequate staffing at this point isn't telling us whether or not they've actually been checked. And, and I think certainly if we're concerned about, what's going to happen in March, even if we did hire another police officer, we're still going to have to call in help in March. Or even October, we're going to have to call in help.
There's one in October,
right?
That's the one that I was informed about.
Right, but even if that were still
there is one?
Yeah, October 30th. We're still going to have to call people in. There's no way our department can handle a lot of people, so we're still going to have to call people in. And you know, we went through this last select board meeting. I don't ever feel good about people getting a job without the proper channels. And to go through old applications isn't really, you know, there's a lot of people, a lot of work out there. We don't know what kind of background or education or experience people who might want a part-time job may have out there, and I just feel it needs to be put out first and get applications in. And it has nothing to do with who the person is, or this is just, if we're gonna take a stand on one department, we have to take the stand on all of the departments. And we said, no more hiring without it going through the proper channels. We're an equal opportunity employer, and we have to stay an equal opportunity employer.
So it's the pleasure of the board to put this out to bid, or excuse me, put it through the proper employment channels.
Right.
And in the event there is an emergency, this person could be utilized on a part-time temporary basis? Is that what I'm hearing, or not?
I don't know. I mean, I would hate to say that would be okay, but I would ask that it should come back to a board, the full board, because I wouldn't want it to be a temporary year thing.
Okay, so pending board approval for a temporary part-time emergency basis. So basically, we're going to leave it as it is as of this moment and put it out to the proper employment policy procedure.
Well, I think, you know, the situation that we're looking at right now with the police department is a little different than the town clerk, or if Sally needed somebody in her department. There isn't a state police or a sheriff's to go to for those kinds of temporary employees. If we need to hire somebody to come into the town to help with law enforcement in the town, we can hire the sheriffs, we can hire the state police. And I think that that's how we should handle our temporary situation, because you know, you're talking law enforcement compared to somebody in the treasurer's office or the town clerk's office. It's much more dangerous position, and we have to make sure that our liability is covered and so forth. And I don't know what the situation would be on a temporary employee, but I do know that other towns use the sheriffs and state police all the time. So, you know, we can do that, and that's what I'd rather see, rather than putting the liability on the town.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that, or?
I move that we authorize Mary Beth, or Chief Hebert, to utilize the state police and sheriff's department as necessary and put out to bid the job opening for the part-time police officer.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize Chief Hebert to utilize the services of the sheriff and state police department in order to meet any deficiencies we currently have and to put any openings out through the proper employment channels. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I had several other topics that unfortunately didn't make it to the agenda that I wanted to meet with the police chief about. So I'm going to try and schedule her for the next available meeting to discuss the dog incident, several other incidents as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of calls on that.
Okay, if you could just let me know ahead of time, so I'm going to have a meeting with her prior to that. I can get her prepared to answer anything we may need.
Yep.
Moving on to the treasurer. Yep.
I just needed, I didn't give you the angles. I just have to, but the rest of them, all three of you came in and signed. So we're good. As far as the warrants go, just need to ratify.
Did you go in and sign them? Is it okay to make a motion on this?
She's got to finish.
Oh,
Or did you already?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
let me make a motion on
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe?
I move that we accept and pay the following warrants. 9SG, accounts payable, in the amount of $76,403.24. 40S, payroll, $10,784.22. 41S, payroll, $10,963.83.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we sign and approve warrants 9SG, accounts payable in the amount of $76,403.24, 40S, payroll in the amount of $10,784.22, and 41S, payroll in the amount of $10,963.83. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Sally?
Okay. Next on the list is insurance. I am going to need another really short executive session to kind of let you know what happened after last week. It should be very brief.
Personnel?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe?
I move that we go into executive session with Town Treasurer Brassar on a personnel matter that, the disclosure of which at this time may be detrimental to the town or the person involved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session with Sally Brassor on a personnel issue for which the disclosure of at this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we went in at 6:51.
Nah, 6:49.
49, I'm sorry.
6:49.
Katrina,
Yeah.
while you're out there, could you give David a holler and tell him we're running about 25 minutes ahead of schedule?
How's your equilibrium, Patty?
I can do it. Oh, there's David right now. Good.
We're running ahead of schedule.
Mine's not.
So we'll get you home in a decent hour.
I can help you.
Long way.
So very important.
It was because I...
Back on your course?
Yep.
It's a good thing I only turned 57. I haven't done it.
Okay, we went into executive session at
49.
6:49, came out at 6:56, no action taken.
Mr. Chair?
Miss O'Donnell?
Did you forget my name?
No,
I make a motion that we reinstate Mario Bussi, I can never say his name,
Busa.
Busa, to the fire department.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we reinstate Mario Busa to the fire department. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will contact him in the morning, and you will contact the
I
chief?
will contact the fire chief and let him know the action we took.
And we're going to also make a motion on... No.
We're waiting.
Yep.
All right, I have one more part to my insurance, and that is that big email I sent all of you from VLCT with all the new insurance information.
Yes, and I didn't...
I immediately sent an
Didn't.
email to Tanya Chambers, who sent that and said, when are you going to be available to come down?
It
Because
wasn't
I
in
really
our
do think
packets.
someone needs to come down and represent what these are and all of that to us.
Okay, so we're asking for a face-to-face with them to give us a better
yeah.
explanation
So
of all
we
these
will have
benefits.
to come,
Yep.
because I don't know what you were looking for either. So, yeah, we really need everybody to meet all together.
That sounds good.
Okay, so.
Yep.
I've
Would this
done
be
that.
something that would be beneficial to, no, it wouldn't. Forget that statement.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, so that's that. I do have for you the hold one and pass these on. These are my step changes that I
Yep.
viewed per the policy. And I also gave you, I've checked Social Security, they do not have the COLA yet. It should be ready for the end of the month. The thought is, right now, that it would probably go up to about 3.5%. It was stagnant for the last 2 years, so.
Yep.
But
Ooh,
I don't have that in
okay.
stone, and I can only
That
get it
must have
from this
hurt the knee.
website. Social Security isn't saying anything, so so that's just for your information.
Way over.
One website said that it would probably be out by the 19th of October. This one says sometime at the end of the month. So, once Social Security actually makes that, decides, and I will get that printed for you and let you know. But right now, we're sort of stuck at not knowing exactly what it's going to be. And these are just for you to look at in your, these
I already see one
changes.
that's kind of a issue.
Well,
Don't
there's
you,
gonna
Patty?
be probably a bunch. Oh.
That one right there, that first one. Look at the,
Oh, I'm looking at the statutes.
Yeah, that really wasn't,
I like this one.
yeah, sorry. Wasn't part of the grade adjustments, I
yes,
I
I know it
understand,
came from
but,
Garnet Hill, I
I-
don't know what that all was,
yeah.
but I couldn't find anything definitive on the SSA.
Like
websites.
Massachusetts drivers with no DUIs can use it. Oh, God, sorry.
So anyway, this is just for you to review.
Okay.
Okay, I said I would do that, so I did.
Yep.
A quick question on the parking lots fund. I don't know how soon we're going to use that, and I wanted your thoughts on whether some of that should go into trust. Or do we want to keep that money liquid? I talked to David already today, and David said he thought maybe half. He thinks maybe half he'd be using. So I could do that, but I'd like your blessing to do it. The funds right now on the trust side are doing okay. They're not doing great. They're not making a lot, but they're not losing.
But they're doing better than what
Then
they-
if I've got it in the money market liquid, so I'm happy to do that. It's easy for me to do. Just tell them to, transfer half into the trust.
And who's working on those long-term or long-range plans or goals?
Those are in my hands.
Okay.
We started with the rec this fall in the school. Next spring, we're going to seal the whole rec parking lot. But if we can get to it before it's being used.
And half will be sufficient to take care of that.
Yep.
And obviously, you'll have the next step of this project after that, and you'll be able to get the funds out in time and not accrue any penalties or anything.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Next is the occupational health site. I've sent Fred from VLCT, Fred Satink was the man who responded to our email. And he was very thorough on what he felt we should be looking for a site and places, what to avoid and what, really what to look for. And Mike also spoke to Wayne Nickerson and asked, I believe, how the site that BY has chosen handles their claims and how their feelings on that. Today, I received an email this morning from Fred. He was going to research all, using those points, places here that he thought would be able to help us. He said it's really pretty meager, and the favorite of his would be Greenfield. Greenfield has an occupational therapy site. Next on his list was Keene and Dean Bresnahan. The Greenfield one was his top choice.
There are no Brattleboro ones.
Well,
Yeah, Dean
Dean
Bresnahan.
Bresnahan would be in Brattleboro.
Oh,
But he really feels that we should go and interview, and using his points, ask the questions as to whether they can provide that to us.
Well,
So I
Brattle-
figured I'd bounce that off.
Doesn't
I don't know.
Brattleboro Hospital have an occupational health? I mean, there's a sign on that, the
Apparently-
building across from the hospital, there's a sign that says occupational health.
I guess it doesn't follow what we would need, though.
Oh, okay.
Because one thing he said about Keene was that they have one, but they're really not designated that way. Did you get that email today?
Yeah, and I looked at it, and I talked with Wayne about it, and he said, well, we have we basically take people over there, and they do walk-ins, and 'cause there's the threshold, you have to get to a certain threshold, and if you're below the threshold, you go do your walk-in. If you're above the threshold, then they're going to the ER, whether or not their supervisor is driving them or they're being taken by ambulance. And he looked at that, he says, I've never had any problem with Keene, but when he took a look at Greenfield and he started looking at it, he's like, I'm going to call them up because, I want to take a look because it was a different one than what that he had known about and what he had looked at. He hadn't looked at that Greenfield one, so he's actually taking a look at it because he thinks that it has a lot of potential.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking for direction on how I would move forward. Would we make a visit to the sites and ask the questions, or what?
Yeah, I think that would probably, think we'd want to see the type of facility and, walk in and, and see what they could do and and make an appointment, go in, see what they can do, get the tour. And then if it looks like they can satisfy our needs, then, basically, and then take it, both of them can, and see which one is going to do it for the least amount of money.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, I don't think we should all go, though.
no.
And I think what I understood was I don't think there's like a bid. There is no amount of money. They pretty much have a standardized, from what I understand that Fred said. Did you get that too, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much whatever the cost is. So who would be willing to do that with me then?
I can't do it until probably the soonest would be the middle of November, just simply, I mean, I didn't even get to my car until after, probably almost 12 minutes after 6, from work.
Yeah.
So,
And is that all right with everyone if it's a little later, as long as we're moving forward?
Yep.
Okay, so why don't we wait after you're done, Mike? You and I can get together about that,
well, we can have
about visiting or
and
whatever.
whether or not a second select board member would like to go to see, because I look at it a certain way, you're going to look at it a certain way, and having a second select board member looking at it to see whether or not just more eyes, to see, because somebody else might see something. I'm looking at a lot of as far as the quality of the care, how they're doing it, the type of equipment they have, how clean the place is. Other people would ask the question as far as and listening, so to say, some of the language that's being used, is it going to be, will the people be able to communicate really well and get across their issues, and how then they can be satisfied? Because this is a technical and there's the people. So,
Okay.
I think the technical, I guess the people concern is an important concern too, but we want to know whoever we go to is going to give good quality care, and you're really the only one. We don't have any medical background, no more machines than ever, so.
yeah. So I think it would probably be a good thing to have, the both sides.
Okay, so we'll revisit it in November.
Yeah.
Once you get the date, send it to the rest of the board, and we'll find somebody to, a second.
Just didn't want to
Okay.
get it mixed up in your
All right, that
papers.
sounds
Yes.
Because
good.
I'm sure it's going to have to be during the day.
Yeah, probably. But if we could go, if it was a week that I had my Friday off and I just swap, I'd work the Friday and then go in the middle of the week. So,
Yeah, once we get past this, make the appointment, and we'll find 2 board members to go.
Okay.
what would be nice is if we could do it in such a way that we could basically do both.
All in one day.
Yeah, one day.
Because that way we could go right from one to the other, and it would be like, oh yeah, look at that.
Fresh our minds, be able to
Yeah.
really see the difference between the two. And for the rest of us who are working, it's hard to,
I just,
I don't have every other Friday off.
and now I know.
Neither does Mike.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Okay, next up is, I just wanted to let you know that if you didn't see it, the ad for help for Mike was placed in the Reformer for 3 days. I've had 2 people come to get the job description and an application. I'm expecting another person, I think, to come up tomorrow, but that's how it's playing right now. The deadline typed on there is October 20th. So I think that falls within the timeline, but I wanted to make sure you knew that had been done. And the last thing, I just need the chair to sign the final contract for our actuarial services, and there's 2 of them, Mike, if you could sign both of them.
Which we already made the motion to do this last week.
Right.
So that's that. And that's all I have.
Yeah, she's going to. You got something you want to bring up? That was on the warrant?
Oh. Sorry. It's been a long week.
It's okay. Understood.
Yeah, I would like to bring up the fact that it's my understanding that if you go for training, the town offers, if it's a distance and it's more expensive for the person to be driving back and forth, you have to stay. That's what the town's paying for. We have some, on the warrants this week, a very high cost of travel back and forth to a training. And that person was certainly allowed to stay there, which is what our rule is, and I just don't think it's fair that the town have to pay the extra money because somebody decides they want to travel back and forth instead of staying and having the town pay for them to stay up there. There's a huge difference in the cost of staying up there would have been in the travel back and forth. And, you know, we set these rules for a reason. It's to save the taxpayers money, and it's an extreme amount of money. You want to add anything, Chris?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that, I don't think we should only but pay what we're supposed to be paying, or what we've agreed to pay, what's in our policy. I don't know. Dave? Because it says we will only pay one time if they choose not to stay.
So we
Right.
pay for one up and back.
So we pay one.
I don't know
one
if
back.
that's a policy or if it was an understanding, I have to say. I don't know. It used to be that way. I don't know if it still is or not, whether it was the board wanted it to be that way or whether it's a PD policy. I'm just not sure.
Well, it
How
certainly
about-
isn't in the IBPO contract.
No.
No.
But I'm wondering about our personnel policy. Please don't think I have it with me because I have to carry everything, because I don't think I do, but I might.
Well, I think we should check, and if it's in the, because that's what I remember, but it was a long time ago that I was
Oh,
on the
guess
board,
what?
so what a surprise.
Personnel matters.
So I don't know
believe
for
it's in
sure.
the personnel policy.
It's going to be in travel.
It would be a travel, it wouldn't be a travel.
It's some other...
Reimbursement kind of a
Yeah, and I
policy.
think it was spoken of that, you know, you could come home, but there would only be one payment up and back if it was a week-long thing. And, you know, you have the opportunity to stay, and if you chose not to, then you
Then
would
that's
still
on your
only
tab,
get
not on
one.
the town.
Compensation?
Right, absolutely.
But I don't know... I know one person did get into hot water for doing that, so that's something I do know. But
If it's not in the policy, I think we're obligated to pay it this time and make sure that it gets out to
Yeah.
department heads or put into the policy. Where are we at
It-
with redoing that personnel policy?
We're pretty close to finished. I was going to say, it wouldn't be in the, not generally, is it in the personnel?
It could be.
It could be, but I mean, I'm just telling you,
It's in some
Yeah.
policy somewhere, because
Yes,
I remember
but usually
you-
it's
I
in a
remember
policy,
reading it.
it's usually one of your policies.
The difference is, where it would be in the personnel policy, is that if you turned around and said, is that if you were at a training or whatever you were doing, and you had spent all day, and it was getting out later in the afternoon, and the person had to drive a long way, you wouldn't want them to drive back tired.
Right.
You know, and it's like, you also, it's kind of like with the bus policy, we limit the amount of time that a person can be out and about and then drive back. And if it's more than a certain amount of mileage, and they're going more than a certain amount of mileage, they have to stay overnight. And that's in the bus policy, to prevent somebody from coming back and,
The only thing I got is,
you know, driving and falling asleep and getting
is the
killed.
reimbursement part of it.
So,
Well, there are a few issues too. One of the other ones
Well,
sort of surrounding that is that reimbursement, our policy states 30 days.
There's the front part.
additionally, all reimbursements are subject to prior approval by the appropriate department head and ultimately the Board of Selectmen.
That's one
Yeah,
you've
we're
gone
still
back and
having-
forth on. This is like the second time I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes before, you know.
So here's
This
another
particular
one.
case.
This one is
That's-
dated.
No, that's the same one. You
Oh,
messed them
okay.
up. Now, don't mix them up. That's the first page.
Stay with the program, will you?
Same one.
Yeah. Say, I mean, change the same.
In one of the meetings in the minutes, I know it states
I remember that too.
Yes, the
Wasn't too long
select board
ago.
reconfirming the policy that prior authorization is needed.
Yeah, that was just
And
not
that
that
may
long
have been
ago.
good.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, that's right.
But that may have been given.
Same one.
It might have been.
It might have been, but it wasn't given by the select board. It may have been given by a department head, but we didn't give any authority for.
No.
So I agree, it would be good to find that policy that exists. If it doesn't, maybe that's something we need to.
There's something we
address.
need to add to it, because
Yeah.
it's not in it. And we are real close to having it to where you can view it.
I mean, any employee can do whatever they want, but the town shouldn't be on the tab for it if that's the choice that they make. We're offering for them to stay there, and we will pay for them to stay there. So we shouldn't be on the tab for traveling back and
That's
forth.
pretty
It's so
standard
much
with most
more-
companies.
Absolutely,
I
with
don't
any
know.
company.
Yeah, I don't see where that fluctuates too much.
No.
Most, the average business doesn't.
Mileage reimbursement now is what?
51 or 55 cents?
51.
51.
Really?
Do you guys have to put in like a request for those? Is there a form that you have to fill out where that is signed off?
No, each department head can, I mean, anything for mileage is submitted to the department head and they would sign it off.
Or like
But for
conferences or
conferences,
something
no, we
like
never
that?
have.
That's usually, that's.
It would be a good idea.
step.
because
I
then
don't
you
think
have
all
to
big towns, I mean, all small
Yeah.
towns, you
Yeah,
know, have all of that
compensation
paperwork for
didn't
people
have
to fill out.
anything
It's
on it.
a different environment in a small town like
Compensation
this
didn't
than
have
it is in a
anything
big
under
town
it.
like Brattleboro, where
As
there's
far
a
as
lot of
that, it's all
employees to
about
keep
the,
track of. And it's never really been
pay.
abused. You know, there's been once in a while, you've had to make a comment, but then things have straightened out again. But I think it's something we're probably going to have to start looking at.
So the consensus is what? To pay it right now and let the department heads know that this is unacceptable
Yep.
and it won't happen in the future? Or is it not pay it and let the department heads know that?
I think we should, first of all, see if we can find the policy. If we can find the policy, then I don't think we should pay it. I think we should pay up once and back once. If we can't find the policy, we have no choice but to pay it.
They weren't all in successive days.
Those last few were, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
The earlier ones.
The earlier ones is that,
Those have to go,
See, we
they're
did
paid
those
separate.
on payroll, the
'Cause of-
first three or whatever they were,
So
because
then
it was outside the
there
reimbursement
was one, it was
policy.
8:30, but there was no next day.
Fire.
Then there was the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. So that's 2 days, two nights that would have been, and then come home on the 6th. So it would have been 2 nights, whatever the rate of the hotel would have been. So if you subtract that out, it may actually, depending on where the hotel is in Woodlawn, it
I
could
don't
be
know
cheaper
where
for the
it was.
mileage.
Yeah, I don't know where it was either.
So, I mean, you have to subtract out the days that were individual days, because there were 2 individual days, and then there were 2 days, 2 nights where we could have stayed over, and on those nights to stay over, when you do that.
Actually, it would be
I
3
think-
nights, Mike. It would be the first night, the second night, and the third night. 1, 2, 3, and come home on the 4th day.
You're right, 3 nights. So, in looking at that, subtracting out the other one, it really comes down to what's cheaper, but at the same time, you have to be careful in the fact you don't have people driving up and back when they're tired. So,
Right, it's about a threefold deal, because I know in the past it was you don't have to stay, but you're not going to get paid if you choose to come home one time and one back. So there was a lot of option there. You can stay or you can come home. A lot of people don't want to stay. You know, they have family or whatever, and they want
Well,
to
that's,
come home.
that's okay, then
That's
we
good.
don't
But
pay
it
for,
still
we
was the
don't.
one,
Right.
so-
And isn't there too something about it be getting the reimbursement form way after 30 days?
Yeah, 30 days is the limit. So what we do now is if we get something in that's post 30 days, it goes on payroll, and you're taxed. And we modeled it after VLCT. So, we figure if you go somewhere at the beginning of the month, you have 30 days to get it in, you should be able to get it in, unless you're in somewhere else for that, but we would allow for that. But yeah, even for mileage, we either take it off or we pay it through payroll. We're trying to get people responsible. So,
See, I think there should be a limit after a certain amount of time. If you can't bother to turn in the paperwork, then you just don't get
And
reimbursed.
you don't get reimbursed at all.
That's the way it is in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, you work a
Gotta
job
tighten
anywhere, you
this
have a certain
stuff up.
amount of time to get your paperwork in for reimbursement. If
Really?
you can't bother to do that, then it's not our problem.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how often the company accrues and balances the books. And so if they are looking at and doing their accruals and basically bringing the books up to date, say once a quarter, and you turn around and you're late, then it screws up all the paperwork, and that would be one of the reasons why you do that. So if you have paperwork that, you're doing and you're looking and you're balancing and looking at what the expenses are and the line items for each of the department on a certain basis, and it comes in too late, you don't know whether or not you think, you tell the department head, Sally tells the department head, you were fine.
mhm.
And then suddenly, department head didn't say is, well, we've got outstanding expense accounts. Then you get hit, and next thing you know, the department head's budget is blown completely out of the water. And it's like, why didn't you tell me? And it would be like, you knew.
Well, like Sally just said, 30 days is plenty of time. You went on the wherever. You know that there's reimbursements coming to you. 30 days is plenty of time to get them in. If you can't get them in, if you're not responsible enough to get them in within 30 days, it's not our problem. That's all there is to it. I mean, that's the way anybody else has to deal with their workplace.
Well, right now, it I don't think it says in the reimbursement policy that if you don't get it within so many days, then you don't.
He hasn't read it yet.
No, it doesn't. It says
doesn't.
30 days. I think
No.
it says it reads some things in it, though. There is some kind of
Oh,
wording.
I don't know, I have to pull
I
that
mean,
back.
So do you basically say is, okay, we have it, after 30 days, you're going to get taxed on it. After 60 days, you're not going to get reimbursed.
We could do that.
Mhm.
That's not how it reads now, but yeah, it reads the 30
Well,
and
I mean,
then...
we can change it.
Yeah.
And then we just have to make sure that everybody's aware that we're
Right.
changing it. And the reason why we're changing it is to make sure that, when we're telling the department heads of where they stand on their annual budget and as far as targets within that annual budget, that, that you're giving the department heads accurate information.
David,
Were there other departments that could have carpooled?
I don't think so. I think this was a
I
specific
don't think
training.
so.
Training, yeah.
And it
You're
was a-
absolutely right.
We should be
Maybe
carpooling
you guys-
whenever we
Because
can.
We did it, I did it with Wilmington and Dummerston for a year and a half, once a month, we had that class.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The first time Lee and I went up, then we noticed that Bill and Sheldon, so then it was meet at Putney Fire Station, just go up together.
That's a good point. We really should make sure that we're letting management know anytime they possibly can carpool with other towns. Anything we can do to save a dime. They add up. They add up.
So
Was
what does
that
it
a
say?
memo of yours? No, it doesn't say that. But what it says, it just says, it is the policy of the town of Vernon to require all employees, including elected officials and their appointees, to submit expense reimbursements by month after the end of each month or within the 30 days of the expense to the treasurer's office. Any expense request not submitted within the time frame will be denied.
See, I thought it said that. So we should deny all the ones that are over 30 days old.
The other ones paid prior.
This is April 18th, 2005.
There's another one just like it, no, on the prior page.
Those three.
Turn it.
But what we can do.
You have to, here, I'll get it. There's two of them.
So, no.
Keep going, you'll find it. Because it got all screwed up. I took it apart. Yeah.
So, let's get this show back on track. per that policy, anything over 30 days should be denied. Do we deny it?
Yes. That is the policy.
That would be the portion that was over, not all of it was over.
No,
30 days.
Right.
just the portion that
Just
was over
those-
30
There's
days.
like three
3 over 30 days.
over 30 days. And we'll pay the other 3 or 4.
4.
And we'll make the statement that moving forward, prior authorization needs to occur from the department head and the board.
Well, I think we should make sure that the policy reflects
Yes,
that.
okay.
And then
Okay.
we can vote on it at the next meeting and we'll send it out for review and then vote on it.
May I throw another wrench into this? We are also having a little bit of an issue with people registering for seminars and not attending them.
Again.
And then the town paying for those. And I think probably that should be addressed too, if we could make it part of,
I went to mine.
yes, you did.
I didn't
But
sign
that's
up
what
for
I'm
it.
talking about.
Nothing.
I'm
Other
talking
people were
about
supposed to
that.
go and didn't.
Yes.
I know
The what?
you're talking about.
Other people were
Yeah.
supposed to go to the town fair and didn't.
Oh.
I mean, there's always going to be
It's
something
always-
that may come up.
Emergencies
but-
happen, absolutely.
And I
But-
think that
But there was a one that come up, and that came up with going to the academy, and they didn't show up either.
That, yeah,
And we
that
paid
was
them,
not-
so.
This is not that.
So we do
There's a
need
lot of
to,
money.
yes, it was a
Yeah.
lot of money, and so we really do need to do something to the policy to state that, absolutely, I agree.
Okay.
All right, so who's going to be in charge of finding this policy? Katrina?
I can find the policy. This is a reimbursement policy that I'm looking for, right?
I'll look too.
I'll look when I
And
get home,
also,
sure.
we're looking for, in addition to the reimbursement, we need something to the effect of canceling or not showing up. I don't think that's a separate policy, but
You know,
we'll look into a way to add that.
somewhere
Yeah,
in
if I can find
here,
the policy, I could do a, strike out and add
Yep.
to,
And then we
have a
can
draft to look at.
go over that and work on that for the next agenda
but
as
it
well.
does
Add
say
that to the
kind of
next
that
one.
here. It says that expense reimbursements include, but are not limited to, mileage reimbursement, meals, lodging, seminars, and other miscellaneous expenses incurred on behalf of the town of Vernon. All reimbursements are subject to prior approval. You could put it there,
That's
that's
not
my own
bad.
thing. Prior approval of the department head, ultimately by the board. Seminaries require overnight accommodation shall be approved by the board prior to the securing reservation. But you could add that right there, that about if you sign up for it and you don't go, and you've had approval to go,
No,
they have to reimburse the town.
I think we'd have to check in to see if we can do that,
Okay.
you know? I'm not real sure.
But how
You
do we
know,
stop it then?
I think we could say, if
Stop
you
it as you
sign
don't
up...
go to the next one.
Just what I was going
okay.
to say, you sign up for a seminar and you don't go, then you're not eligible to sign up for another one. You know, but you can't have people signing up and not going. Pardon?
It ends up holding them back, and ultimately to hold them back and being able to advance within their department, and they'll end up having to leave. Because if people have to go to a seminar in order, say, for a training or what have you, for something that basically is a requirement for their job, and then they don't go and they blow it off, and then it would be like, well, we're not going to approve you to go on future ones. Well, then, from then on, they're done. They're cooked.
Well,
The
depending on...
ones you're
position.
referring to aren't
No.
of that nature.
Right.
No, this is
Right.
just
Well,
town
the
fair.
academy was.
The academy was, you're
Academy
absolutely
was,
right.
definitely.
This
Academy
one
was.
isn't that. But,
Well, some of these, and thank God we belong to VLCT, because if we didn't, some of these are $100 and some odd dollars plus for going, yes, a lot more, going to the town fair and stuff like that.
we just want to make sure that when you register, you really are planning to go. Things do happen, emergencies do arise,
Right.
and that's one thing, but to make the reservation and then just kind of not go.
Because
is
there's the
not.
ability to cancel it at some point.
Yeah,
I think
this
there is,
one
and they will reimburse you.
I can tell you right now that VLCT really has gotten tougher, because this happened last year. And they used to allow substitutes to go. And last year I was told that they're not, we got a bill, and I said, well, wait a minute, we sent so-and-so instead. And the answer was, that's too bad. We're not, we're charging, if you register, we're expecting that person to come. This year it looked like they may have gone back because they might have thought it was too harsh.
Gotten a lot of
But our
staff
people
from it.
did not go. So we had 3 people who did not go. At $50 apiece, that's $150.
That's wasteful.
It's money you don't need to waste.
That's
Yeah.
wasteful.
That, when we talk about waste, that is waste.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in these seminars because I just think that they're such a learning experience. They're, especially way down here in the southeastern corner of Vermont, we're not exposed to a lot of what's happening in the rest of the state. And I'm sure David can tell you and Sally can tell you, there's a lot to be learned from each other, and that's what makes these seminars so wonderful. But it's unforgivable to, be paying for people, and they're not going.
Well, the other way to do it is the fact that
Last
you
time
say
we went,
is
I
that
took out
if
your
it's
fence,
not a
remember?
requirement of your job to go, then you will put the money up first, and we'll reimburse you if you go.
Oh, that's an idea, too.
Yeah, but then you know what happens with that, though? You're punishing everybody for what a couple people have done. There's, plenty of people who work in town, the town that wouldn't even, they'd crawl there if they had to.
Right.
So why punish everybody? They may not have the 50 or 100 and $150 to put up first. They'd really like to go. They'll get a lot out of it. But because one person screwed up, they're going to be punished. I have that concern.
We've had 4 people now in the last 4 months that have blown off training.
Then don't let them. Then don't pay for them to go again. Punish them. Don't punish everybody.
We got to figure out a way to do this.
It's almost like
We
sending
really need to
the
do
whole family
something.
to bed without their dinner because
Yeah.
one kid screwed up.
Yeah.
It's not fair. I'm hungry.
Let's find the policy. Let's
You're-
beef it up.
you Could do that.
I can check to see what some other
That's why I
small
said
towns
it's
are
not
doing
fair.
too, and sort of do some.
Yeah,
Yep.
they have
Yeah,
some
that'd be
similar-
great.
they must
Yeah,
have
I mean,
similar
they're having,
problems.
most small towns all around are having.
Yeah,
that.
so
I
let's-
can
let's do
Sort
that.
of like I did before, I can check around with the towns and see what their policies read, or how they handle it, or what the situations are.
I think you'll find out a lot of them don't sign up and not go.
Yeah.
That's what I think you'll find
I
out.
think it comes back.
I think
to
we're
some of their
we've gotten too
evaluations.
complacent.
Yes.
See, that
We're
is
getting
true.
very-
Yeah, I like that too.
It's that
I
sense
think
of
that's
entitlement.
important.
I think
Yes,
that
agreed.
hits you
Sense of
on
entitlement.
your evaluation.
You got
If
it.
you are signing up for seminars and blowing them off, then that's a piece that should hit you on your evaluation.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right, but you're talking about town government,
Right,
and elected officials don't get evaluations.
right.
And if it's the elected officials, there has been obviously employees that have done it, but if it's an elected official and you're not giving them an evaluation, then,
That's what that electronic sign is for.
Yeah, David's.
that will elect.
All right,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Contract.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, do you want to stick around for this quick discussion about the hours? I've gotten a little bit of flack about that, and I know
What?
the tiny little memo about the hours. I didn't want to go, or I felt if we went into too much detail, it would cause too many problems, but too little detail is causing just as many problems. So we need to firm up what we want to put in this memo regarding those hours. And specifically, if I can refresh your minds, it was regarding employees who were allotted by the taxpayers to work X amount of hours, but are working more or not working that.
Well, I think it's by de facto, right? And the fact is that, because we don't say anywhere in the annual report somebody's going to be working so many hours. However, it de facto, and the fact is that if the person doesn't have benefits, and the benefits are
think they're gonna
built into the
take it.
budget for that person, then the person doesn't have benefits, which means they have to work less than so many hours per week. I mean, am I wrong?
You just confused me.
No.
He did me too. I was like,
But I
what is
think-
he saying?
I think it was my request that got everyone all messed up.
No, I'm just saying, is that the budget is set up with a certain amount of benefits in there, there's so many people working over, what is it, 30 hours? 20 hours?
20.
20 hours.
20 and over.
20 and over, there's a certain amount of benefits that you get. So the budget is built, so if you're doing 20 or less, you don't get benefits.
Correct.
And if you work more than 20, then you start to get more benefits as you work more and more hours. And so if the budget doesn't have built into it to cover the benefits for a person, ipso facto, they're working less than 20 hours per week. Or they work more than 20 hours, but it's not regularly. In fact, the majority of the time, they work less than 20 hours, 20 or less. And then there's exceptions, like some of our part-time officers. The exception is the fact that they're working, say, 40 hours because somebody's on vacation. Say a full-timer is on vacation, so they work 40 hours or more. But it's that 1 or 2 weeks that they do it,
Not
all the time.
6 months, because
Right, because if you turn
Yeah, but if
around
the
and you
average-
let them do that, they can sue us. If they get hurt, they can then, their attorney could come in and successfully sue us to say is the department head and the select board, because they approved my pay with this many hours for 6 months in a row, I got hurt, I am due benefits for those 6 months as a full-time employee. And they'd win.
But if you take and you say to the taxpayers, we only need $15,000 in that. In that, Sally has figured the regular hours and maybe 20 extra hours, if they work 20, right? So if they work 40 for 2 weeks, then they should, I mean, that's overspent.
No, not necessarily.
well, I think the point Mike is trying to get across is they're allotted 20 hours a week.
Right.
Somebody goes out, gets hurt, quits,
Well, I know, and then you'd have
and
to
they're
bump them
working
up.
40 hours a week for the next 6 months, but
Mhm.
not receiving any benefits. Then they get hurt, and they could say,
Yep.
"You've
Well-
been paying me full time without benefits. I want my benefits.
That's exactly
I want
right.
my disability."
I understand, yes, okay.
In the nuclear industry,
Got it.
there were class action suits that people were basically working, doing the same job, sitting right next to me, say, working 40 to 60 hours a week, but not getting benefits. They were just contract, not getting any benefits. Class action suit. Large groups of people were awarded, and they had been doing it for like 10, 20 years, all right, a long time. And they got awarded back benefits. And there was this huge overhaul in the industry that you had to work, you couldn't be an independent contractor anymore, you had to work for another company, and that company was on the hook to make sure that you got your benefits, because each of the different utilities weren't going to take that responsibility on. And it's the same thing what we're talking about, is if a person is only a part-time person, but works consistently more and that's such that they should have been getting it, they will win if they end up having to sue us because they get hurt and they need the benefits in order to protect their family.
Then what's the problem with this?
Can I talk about the reason I sent that? My reason for sending the email that I sent was not for that, not to get benefits. It was to appreciate a person who has helped out. And my view was just to give just something special, like, Christmas. Oh, guess what? We're going to pay for your Christmas this year because you've helped us out. Something easy like that. And we also have the line item for appreciation activities, so I'm not thinking about taking anything from a line item. It was just something to recognize one of our temporary part-time employees who kind of has gone above and beyond, and it's thoughtful, I think, to appreciate.
I didn't get that one.
So it was in part of an email that I sent on something else, and at the bottom, it just a
Probably
couple
didn't read it,
sentences.
yeah.
Right.
It was, and
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, because it obviously confused everyone.
Yeah.
It was just meant to say, hey, you know what, came to our mind and thought, maybe we should ask, because we do have a department in town who does that quite often with their employees.
Mm.
And, the taxpayer pays for it, but they do recognize sometimes when their employees go above and beyond. So that was the reason for it. It wasn't to get anything. There is not going to be a benefit. The benefit isn't earned anyway.
Mhm.
The hours are not there. So it was just a thought, would you want to do something? And, yes or no is fine. I'm just really sorry that it came into this because it's not how it was meant to be.
Well, what I got was
Yeah, no.
the whole 4-day, 5-day work week issue,
Mm.
and how
As a result of that one person.
I thought it was as a result
thought it
of.
was.
No, I think
too.
you're thinking of a different email that came up, and the fact is that the email that came from, that came just the other day individually to us, and then you also sent it the same way from.
Auditors.
Yeah.
Auditors, yeah.
And I, just on its own, looking at this memo, not what you said about the other thing, that didn't even enter, I knew that you were talking about that.
Oh,
That's
okay, so
not
this
what-
is different.
I'm just thinking that, listen, we need to clarify, because it's, in some cases, a number of different departments have been doing this, and we have to be very careful that,
Oh, I didn't bring that one.
one department in particular that's understaffed has been in the past, is that you take a look at some of the time cards on certain individuals within that department, and how often that they were going through the 20 hours. It was like week after week after week
I
after
know what you're
week.
talking about.
And this, in and of itself, just the amount of hours that are allotted based on the amount of benefits that are set aside is its own separate issue. And I think warrants, and the fact is that maybe a little bit more detail in here, the reason why you turn around and you set up a budget and you designate people, because you were a couple of years ago, you were like, we have to reword, in I think the grid, we have to be very specific on the amount of hours to make sure that we
Yes.
don't exceed the benefits that are budgeted.
Right.
Yep.
And I still don't think that is gotten across. So, in and of itself, just this memo, also in regards, a little bit kind of in regards to no, not really in regards to that memo, but just in and of itself, to reinforce the budget and benefits, or the benefits built into the budget. I think it's worth talking with the department heads and say, listen, this is where we're at. This is the type of society we live in, a litigious society, and that there's a very good chance that we would be successfully sued. And we as a board, and you as a department head, can't allow that to happen.
Yeah, you were allotted 20, that's what you're working, period.
Because I was just talking with
Simple.
somebody else, and he thought the part-time police officers were all budgeted for 30. And I said, no, it was 20 and less. And he said, no, it was 30.
No.
Mhm.
And in fact,
I remember that.
the wording that I like you to use when you're hiring part-timers is up to a certain amount of
Mhm.
hours. You're not saying 20, 30, because once you do that, you have a contract. This is 30 hours, and this is what we've got to do. If you say up to, then we average those hours out and find out whether there are benefits due or not. And a lot of times, people who have been hired for more don't work those hours and really shouldn't be getting the benefit. So we got 3 different things going on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay. Good.
And we're going to have, call David and tell him to come early because we were so far ahead.
I'd like to see this memo worked on a little bit so that it provides a little more lead-in and to talk about it, but it still should be, I believe it should be put out.
I've got
I
a
do
better
too.
understanding of what we're trying to do now, and I'll work on that.
I think I do too. I didn't want to put too much into it because I think I was under the misconception it was based on that email as well. So I did it very, just, that statement came just, as a one-liner without too much
Would it be good
detail.
to do this, what do you think about doing it when we meet about budget?
I was just going to say that. Why don't we save this for budget time?
And then have that memo go along with the meetings for budget?
When is that meeting?
budget meeting
Yep.
is on the 7th of November.
Okay, that's the next meeting,
Yep.
next regularly scheduled meeting.
So did we get this in response to this? I mean, did we get this in response to that? Is that where we got that?
What?
No,
No,
because the
it's
date,
different.
yeah.
And I'll handle that one. Right?
Yeah. I got it too.
Okay.
I was talking to her when she got it. We got it together.
Wait, which one are you talking about? All right, David, there's too many memos going around. Which one?
All right, Kristen.
Oh,
Why can't we handle that tonight? The memo we got from back
Mike's right, it needs to be warned.
I think it should be warned.
Yeah, okay. Says it in there.
Okay.
You want to do it, do it.
Well, I'm good with warning.
Yep,
We'll put that on the 7th as well.
okay.
You'll probably know what that is.
Yes. David?
That's what it sounds like on the TV channel.
You're the last order of business tonight, I believe.
Do you, I have extra copies of this, do you want him to have?
He's got one, doesn't he? I thought you gave him one. No, Chris
Yeah, we've
gave
already
him
done
one.
that.
Did Chris give him? No, I don't believe he.
No, I did not give him that.
Yeah.
I just got it today myself.
I'll take Bobby's.
did do
I
that.
gave him mine, I'll take
There
Bobby's.
was a problem.
Here you go.
I'll talk to you about it. Can use them as an emergency. Did you get that?
Yes, I just did.
No, I
Yeah, me
thought
too.
you gave it to him prior.
No, and I didn't give it to him.
No,
I wasn't
um,
instructed to do so, and so I didn't feel that it's my place.
Okay.
But David and I have talked back and forth about, the other towns.
And if I was, I apologize. I just got this today.
No, we got it in an email prior.
I had
We've
lots
had
of,
it for like
lots
3
of,
weeks.
yes, I know,
Yes.
but I mean, I had it, like that, but if I was supposed to give it to him, I totally dissed it right out of my mind. Sorry, David. You forgive me?
Sure.
So
I'm a
you and
rotten
Katrina have
liaison.
talked. What are your thoughts on this whole process?
You've never forgotten something?
Of course I have, every day.
Thank you.
Well, I talked with Patty last week because I stopped in to see her. Really, it doesn't, like I told her, I've done some figuring, Sally has, and we came within $10, so strictly up to you guys.
Can you elaborate on what you came up with? Or
You
either
got-
of you?
I've got, well, what
Would-
David did on his was, he took what was in the budget and divided it into 52 weeks or into 53 weeks. So that included
Right.
overtime, all of the overtime. I did it a bunch of different ways, but I did it with 44 hours that we discussed, which would be straight time, and then also with those 4 hours being overtime hours. And I can tell you what is left in the budget, and if we took that and divided it out into the 37 weeks that we have left of the hourly pay. So that's sort of, without direction.
David and I had talked about this.
Yeah,
That's
but we
sort of
didn't
what
talk,
we did
you
at
just
kind
told
of
me
every
to see
round.
Sally, so.
Yep.
The difference, though, is that depending on the type of winter that you have, and if you get plastered, is that depending on how you're set up, is that we're going to blow the budget.
Yeah.
You know, we don't stay within the budget, we go through the budget. So depending on whether or not you're exempt or non-exempt, can make a big difference in the fact is that how you're going to be moving forward. So,
And we did talk about this. I didn't say see Sally. I had said that the select board was thinking of adding 4 hours extra a week into your overtime pay. To think about that, and then go see Sally.
Yep.
We did talk about it.
because the thing that I am a little worried about, and I was thinking about it a lot today, is that we have, the issue comes in as far as the
I like
personnel manual, how that, we've got to basically build into that, because we're going to have, we have department heads, and some of the department heads are exempt, or all other ones are exempt. And that, when you turn around and you say is that the person is, working, with their hands, and as far as we'd have to build that in, and look at all the rest of the department heads and make sure that none of the other department heads basically fit into that description. As long as they don't, then it's okay for you to be different. But if there are other people that do work with their hands and labor, because there is another department head that spends a lot of time out on the road and physically doing their work. So if it's good for you to be non-exempt and labeled as a supervisor, we have to make sure that that works the other way too.
Yeah.
But that's the reason, one of the reasons why Richard wants to see it, to make sure that we basically don't make a change that, changes something and puts us in a bad position.
Mike, you're aware that Mike Coughlin is also overtime. He's not on salary.
Yeah, how come?
I don't know.
Wasn't Dan always
And,
As
on
long-
that salary? I think he was.
But as long as we set the description of under FSLA, and that description under FSLA, and we say is, this is under FSLA exempt, under FSLA non-exempt. And then we're consistent across the board with our description, we'll have a problem.
And that's what Katrina went through, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I did this
Yeah, that's the
research
bottom of
for
page
you.
three.
Right.
But it was specifically, though, what I'm saying is more in a broader term, a brush stroke of all the department heads within the town, and making sure that the definition that we identify is consistent, so that
Yes.
the other department heads then make sure we review them.
Right.
So the final consideration is not about you.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
But it's more about as far as you and the other department heads.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference,
Yeah.
obviously, that's the difference between Vernon and Newfane. Newfane doesn't have a rec director, and they don't have a chief of police, and same with like Wardsboro. I mean, these are the smaller towns that I looked at, Guilford,
Newfane.
Yeah,
New
the rec and
Fane,
stuff are all
Dummerston.
volunteer.
Guilford, yeah.
you know, I mean, so obviously there's that to consider. You're not dealing with other departments.
And we
Says
did
right in
discuss
the
also the non-exempt
The only
status
one
too,
was
David.
Hinsdale, New Hampshire.
Part-time people do.
Hinsdale, New Hampshire they do not have a road commissioner. They only have two
He hires
employees on
somebody all summer
salary.
long to do that.
And the police chief and the town manager are exempt from overtime. So
But
Hinsdale
that's-
is really the only one that,
But out of all of these, the road commissioner basically is a figurehead, which is basically the select board.
exactly.
Right, and they're non-paid, but, yeah, we discussed that too, David, about the non-exempt and just pay you an hourly time. We have discussed this, and, but these are okay, but the thing is that we've paid David already for years and years and years. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different, as we've already given it to him. I mean, I
We're
don't,
not taking anything away.
okay, because that's, I mean, I wouldn't want to do
No,
that
we
in
were
any way.
specific about that night we
Yeah.
talked about it.
Right.
And I want to say that in front of David, because I did tell him that too. We were
Yes.
very specific about the fact this isn't to cut his salary.
Right.
It's to bring him up to protect us legally. That's all we're trying to do here.
What
Yeah.
actually brought this all about was Harry's
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever seen his recommendations? You should.
I'd only plow when needed. And I just wanted to know what needed is.
Well, somebody got sick.
Yeah.
Yep.
You wouldn't be doing that. Underneath, as far as what he was saying, is that you'd
Yeah.
have other people doing that for you, and that way you
Oh,
wouldn't
he had
have
us
to work.
Brattleboro and Burlington. That was
Right.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless we had another
But-
person to plow, there's no way.
There's no, right.
And being the size we are compared to Brattleboro and Burlington, you wouldn't have enough work to do.
Anyway,
Take a
I don't find an easy resolution to this.
So your recommendation, or the figures you had, was the additional 4 hours a week.
That was my choice, too, option one.
I mean, what concerns me with that is that's approximately 128 hours of overtime a year.
Oh, yeah.
Times two, you know.
Yep.
Which you obviously don't, I don't think you do 120 hours of overtime a year currently.
Actually, they do.
Yes.
I was gonna
Plowing
say.
in winter.
Are you kidding?
Really?
Yes.
Think about 3-day snowstorm.
100 hours of
Yeah.
overtime,
Per
Yeah.
person?
yeah.
Think about, think of a 3-day snowstorm, they're out there
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
until the roads are
Amazing.
clear and the snow stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they do it myself, but
I guess I never.
we
looked
have a
at
tough
it.
winter,
I know.
you know? They're out there a lot.
But all I've seen, it's like 15, 20 hours a week. Yeah, winter's 10 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Some years longer, some years
Yeah.
shorter, and
Yeah.
it all, you know, it all averages out over 10 years, but
You wanted it figured like at the 200?
I remember one year was a whole heck of a lot more than that.
last winter was a lot, wasn't it?
Not so much
Actually,
as
last
the...
winter wasn't that bad.
Right.
I didn't like the worst
winter
winter
we
I
had.
can't remember, it was
so-
2008, I think it was, wasn't it? That was really bad.
I know when I first started, there was some weeks that
Yep.
it was 80, 90 hours. Just,
What if we bump it up to the 4 hours a week and revisit this after winter? Or after the next, because this wouldn't take effect until, when would this take effect?
Whatever you tell me.
And the hard thing with that, though, Mike, is you're going to get good winters and you're going to get bad winters, and it's all in how much you like winter and as to how you define it. But, you know, there's going to be winters that they're going to plow a lot, and it's going to seem never-ending, and then there's going to be winters
Yeah.
where we're just going to be saying, wow, what a mild winter we have, and you really kind of have to look at it the whole and average it out. There's no,
Five-year average.
there's just no way we can look at this and say, to the penny. We might be able to get within $10, but then we don't know what the winter's going to be like. So we don't know if it's going to shortchange David. But the other flip side of it is, we could have an awesome winter, and he wouldn't have made as much as he's going to make. So,
The key being, though, we need to get in compliance.
right.
Is it, because this would only bump him up, what, about $110 a week?
Well, it depends on how you figure the 4 hours, whether you figure it as straight time or overtime.
Oh, okay, so what's,
If we do 44 straight, right now David makes $965.20 for his salary.
Mhm.
So his salary would go up to $1,060, $172. It'd be almost $100 more a week.
But he's also at the point where he's going to take a step up.
Right, so what would the overtime be? What would,
Well, I only budgeted it for this year. I didn't look ahead yet.
okay, no,
I
I
don't
mean,
even
if
know
we
what
figure the
would be
4 hours as
salary,
straight would be 1,061, which equals 100, approximately.
172. And we have 37 weeks left.
And I figured out at overtime, 4 hours?
That's at 44 straight. 44 with 4 overtime hours
Mhm.
is $1,110 a week. So it's about $40 more than that.
It's 40, 140.
And that would pretty much eat up the budget at 44.
That's his,
Yeah. We have $1,171.
I still think we need to define what we're going to consider as an exempt and non-exempt supervisor or department head, and then take a look and say, this is how we're going to move forward, and a few of the budgets are going to go over, and that's the way it's going to be. Because if Mike is a department head, and he's non-exempt, but, Seth is a department head, and he works with his hands a lot. When you see him out there working on the ball field and whatnot, and on the pool, he spends a lot of time physically doing his job. And that whole manual labor thing, I could see it applying it to him. So he's still a supervisor, but he's a working supervisor, and he's a laborer, which would mean he's non-exempt, and he's entitled to all overtime that he works. And so I think that it's just you define what you're going to have, and then from that definition, you reclassify as appropriate and talk to those individuals, and he says, in reality, nothing's going to change with what they're doing already. However, based on this FSLA definition, is that you're non-exempt.
Who can do that?
Who can do what?
Who can make that definition?
It is already defined.
So why aren't we making that definition?
It wouldn't be that we're making a definition. We'd be saying is that we are adopting that, and it's part of the personnel policy, that this is the definition of a department head, exempt department head, and non-exempt department head. And then you look at that based on that definition, and then you basically classify your people as a non-exempt working supervisor or a non-exempt department head.
And that's based on this FLSA covered blue-collar worker definition?
And I think that this is the point
That's
where
part of it.
that would probably be a good idea to ask Richard, is that the sticky wicket here, is that, especially since he's really good at that, and say, is that we're at this cusp of moving forward in the direction, and we need clarification.
So are you saying that all our department heads should be non-exempt and
No,
they should be paid
that's not-
overtime?
That's not what I said.
Okay.
I said
They
is
should
that
not be exempt.
you have to look at the department head and their responsibilities.
I know, but you just said that the rec department works overtime and he's entitled to
I
overtime.
think they should all be exempt and not paid overtime.
That's exactly right.
The
That's the way I
supervisory
feel.
positions, they're getting paid more for
This
supervisors.
fact
And
sheet, I
don't
think.
get me wrong.
Oh, I know, that you're not
Outlines it
saying that, I know.
pretty Clear
But
what the
it just-
exemptions are. This is fact sheet 17A, and I think that's, it's pretty clear on who qualifies or how they qualify for exemptions.
But this is the whole crux. The whole
Yeah.
crux.
All exempt equally.
We have to be consistent, we have to do it in accordance with law, and we have to make sure that we apply it fairly to each individual to make sure that when this is viewed in the eyes of the court, in a, say, in a future case, that we aren't basically throwing out the baby with the bathwater, or going from the frying pan into the fire.
I don't think we would be if we said all department heads exempt employees and no overtime. I don't think I think we would be making everything consistent.
It would be consistent, but I think that one of the things that Richard really wanted to have happen is that when we got to a certain point and we were going to go down a certain path, that he was consulted.
No, I don't have a problem with
Well,
consulting.
I don't either.
I can get Richard in here for the 21st meeting.
But David is an exceptional case. It's different than just saying, okay, you're exempt now, and we're just going to flat pay you out salary, when he's been for years, for 20-some-odd years,
But
earning overtime.
we have to remember what we were told by either Harry or Richard or another attorney. It's not the person, it's the position.
Well, what about,
I know.
this is just as throwing this out, keeping things as they are now, rescinding your motion about making David non-exempt, getting through this budget and working with what you're going to do for the following budget? That everybody comes in line then rather than in the middle of the year.
For one person.
Right. And then you can have it all worked out for every department head for the new budget.
I'd agree with
We'd
that.
have to have that, in order to have the budget, we'd have to have it worked out before in a month from now, where we'd have
Well,
the.
January for the.
No, but I mean, for you to work out and crank out the numbers, and other people to do that, the same thing, is it has to be before January. You have to have everything decided, the definition,
Yeah.
the personnel policy marked up, and then the direction, and having talked with the department heads.
Well, I think most
But
of
you're
the
gonna do
department
that
heads
anyway,
don't
that's what you're
have,
looking at.
right, and most of the department heads don't have it done. I mean, David's
Right.
different because
Yes.
we can't control Mother Nature.
I've been
So
trying
he
to say
has
that.
the overtime because of the plowing. The other, Mike Coughlin, Seth, they don't have the overtime, and is there a
They don't.
need for them to have to work overtime?
No.
No. Seth's got a staff in the summertime, he's got supervisors that work for him. Mike will have an assistant, If he has to work later one day, he can leave earlier the next day. So there really isn't the need for overtime that David has. So David is different. We always knew
Yes.
David was different.
Well, I try to say that, but
But I think that we're preparing ourselves better by having everyone looked at as the same. Just like when you're in state government, you get to a certain level, you're an exempt employee, appointed most times by the whoever the administration is, but you're an exempt employee. You're a supervisor. You're different. You can work 88 hours a day, and you're not going to get overtime because that's the position you hold. And I think that that's how our management should be also.
I'm exempt, and I never get paid for any of the overtime I work, with the exception of, is that when I have to work for the outage, and then I get straight time. Because I have to work the extra time, and because it's not my choice, and when I can basically make sure that, when I'm going to be there and when I'm not going to be there, I have to be there, I get paid for it.
Which makes it an extremely different case, just like David is an extremely different case. Everybody else can manage their time. David can't because you don't know. I mean, some weeks you can. Some weeks you can look at the forecast and say, it's going to snow on Friday and Saturday, so I'm not going to work on Monday and Tuesday. And I don't know if you do this. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. But, when the one job in the world that you can be wrong 95% of the time and still get paid as a meteorologist, you don't know because the weatherman says it's not going to snow. There's no guarantee. So he can't set his time up the way Mike can or Seth can or, And any manager should be willing, if an emergency comes up, to put a little extra time in it, because if they're not willing, then they shouldn't be management.
That's been the last couple of Fridays.
I was going to say that overtime isn't always due to snow.
No.
Right.
No.
I've been writing off last couple of Fridays, just for little things for FEMA. And thank you, Sally, for doing some of the paperwork. Next time, we're going to have a board member involved.
And imagine.
I don't
we
think
didn't-
so.
We didn't even get hit.
We know.
Can you imagine what it was like for those towns that really got hit? We didn't get any. I mean, I'm still sitting here saying, we are so blessed in this town.
Yep.
When you drive around the state and see the devastation is just
That's what
horrible.
we've been talking about.
Once the
How are they going
camera's off,
to...
I'll tell you
The
a
board
quick little
members
story.
basically were
Figure
almost, that was their
Next time
full-time
the board will
job
do
to
it.
basically put the town back together again.
They've hired individuals to handle.
That had to.
I'm done.
That had to. They were talking about that at VLCT.
So
That's
what are we
most
doing?
of VLCT was
Yeah.
about.
Right now, your motion has made him, the motion you made quite some time ago,
That's made it make sense.
which I don't know that you can now rescind because too much time has gone by.
Yeah, but we opted
Made him-
to, until we were able to firm up what we were going to do,
Mm-hmm.
things stay the way they are now. So I think we're fine to leave it the way it is now, until we can come up with an official course of action. If
And I
that
don't
makes
think
sense.
the rest of it is all that difficult. I think you have a great point. When we start the new year, when we start the new budget, let's start the new
And we're
process.
going to have a lot more answers if we
Yep.
know what we're doing.
So we made the motion, but you're still getting all of the stuff that you
Okay.
currently.
Because I know Sally was trying to figure out what was left, and I was figuring out what was in there.
And then that way, you don't have to worry about this year's budget.
Yeah,
I
it's almost like,
think
yeah, we
it's,
keep doing it.
at this point in the year, it's
So
real difficult.
do we want me to bring Richard involved in this? Was that the, I know that was part of the discussion.
I'm not sure he has to come. I was
Yeah,
just
I was
more
gonna say
getting
that.
his opinion and, with the way that we're looking to move forward and see just what he thinks.
Okay.
I mean, a phone call would cost us a lot less money.
Is there anything else?
Nope. You mentioned about the budget?
I didn't, I was going to mention
Okay.
that under new business.
Okay, then I'll wait
Okay.
for new business, but that's it. Sorry.
See, I have my note. We're not new business yet, so I can't say it.
Okay.
Moving on.
First of all, I wanted to report on the VLCT Town Fair Day. It was an awesome seminar, as they usually are. I just, the more you think you know, the more you learn when you go to one of those things. This year's was a little bit different because so much of the conversation went around flood relief and FEMA and small business loans for some of the businesses that were devastated by the storm. So a lot of that went there. I did go to a very interesting healthcare, was done by a person who was put in charge of healthcare by the governor. And that was pretty interesting. Not to say that there's any answers, and I kind of prided myself in the years I was a legislator, I probably knew more about healthcare than most people in the state of Vermont. And, I couldn't figure out what she was talking about. And they don't have any answers. So we don't know what's going to happen with the healthcare bill, because there really is not a healthcare bill yet. There's no statute written, so we really don't know where to go with this. But the one thing that we have to be very careful of is we now have union employees. And they don't, that's probably one of the biggest things. How do you handle union employees? Because some of the negotiation is around healthcare. So if we have a state-sponsored healthcare, how do we handle this? And the state doesn't know that yet either. So that's probably one of the things that they're working on that we really need to look at the most. And also, I had a really good conversation with David, and word memo got out to the department heads about level funding budgets, and about, we had talked last select board meeting about trying to build a budget that was a true line item budget, and then looking at your future for the next year's needs. What could go wrong? And I'll use the rec department. Could the pump go? If the pump went, what would that cost? How old is some of your equipment? What are you concerned about? What are your major repairs? And let's build a budget that truly tells people in Vernon, this is, our repair. It's not for seminars, it's not for travel, it's not for hotels, it's for repairs. So we can have a true feeling as to what our budgets are. And David brought up a really great point about line item budgeting, and I've never really been a fan of line item budget. I know it sounds like a good thing, but it's not always the greatest thing for the taxpayer. The thing we have to be really careful of, and David's department is not the only department that is to deal with this. There are things in every single department's budget that has state and federal funds attached to it. And sometimes when you do a line item budget, the highway, town road fund is one of the biggest parts. David cuts how much money he puts into his town highway budget. It also gets cut by more, or at least an equal amount, by the state. So for every dollar we cut, sometimes we lose $2 and $3 of state and federal money that could be coming in. So I think the departments need to be very aware of where they're making their cuts if they're doing line item budgets, so that we're not really hurting the taxpayer in Vernon from getting the federal and state assistance that they could be getting. And that is what happened, because a lot of those, they're all match funds. So if the town doesn't put in this amount of money, they don't get that amount of money. So we need to be very cognizant of that.
I didn't think we ever cut
We never
the road
have.
budget.
Last year, I did either 7 or 7,500, and you guys did 10 in assault.
Yep, that's right.
I didn't
But
even
see,
realize that
but
that was
we-
a match.
That's
Yeah, that's-
counterproductive.
I didn't
That's just
realize-
encouraging people to be frivolous with their spending
Yeah.
so they can get more government funding.
No, but I think you have to look at what the budget is. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying is that part, but
We did that because he was $20,000 or $40,000 over his budget of the salt the previous year.
and I wasn't here for last year's budgets. That's
Right.
not that's not the point I'm bringing up. I'm just bringing up, as we talk into the future about next year's budget, we need to be aware, and we need to be able to remember to say to the department heads, what happens if we don't put that extra $5,000 in? How much state dollars do we lose, or how much federal dollars do we lose? And and you're right, I don't want to ever encourage a department to spend frivolously so they don't lose the state and federal money. But when we're talking about road repair or certain things within, they're necessities, they're not frivolous spending.
Well, I guess my question is it the entire budget?
No.
Or is it specific
It's
pieces?
specific
Okay.
parts in every department. Well, and I don't even know if every department has.
So like salt,
In that
Salt
part,
is matched.
that says state, our class 2 and 3 funding goes on my whole budget.
so the
But is salt and sand were
That's in
matched?
that budget, it's all, a certain percentage is reimbursed from the state,
Oh. Wish I knew that.
the whole budget. You break it all down, you do the summer and your winter, it's my whole budget.
So your whole budget, so if we just knocked out all your overtime, that would affect your budget, and then that would affect your funding?
Yeah, it knocks everything down for what we get back.
That's,
State's got you by the toes.
I didn't know
The other
that.
way around, too.
Neither did I.
Now, another thing we're going to have to be very aware of and watch out for very carefully is there's no money in Montpelier. So I don't know what's going to happen to a lot of these budgets. You know, obviously, we're $1 billion behind because of Irene. And there may not be any road funds because they're spending all that money now repairing roads. They may not be able to put money in funds. So we're going to have to be really careful and really watch carefully what's happening in Montpelier.
I thought you were going to say frivolous lawsuit.
I don't know if you guys have been over Tyler Hill. It's got all the new road signs, because we're gonna get hopefully reimbursed for them. But by 2015, we've gotta change all of them in town. and
Again?
on us.
The new ones that you just put in.
Well, they're gonna be bigger. On your way to work tomorrow, look at Tyler Hill Road.
But unfortunately, if you don't comply, these are
Right.
state laws or federal laws, and if you
That's-
don't comply with them
Yep.
and do it while
Oh,
you're
yeah.
getting the federal and state money, you got to do it anyway.
Right.
So once the date's passed, then you're doing it 100% town money.
Right.
So you really have to be careful of that. You know, we're spending money frivolously as a state on lawsuits all over the place, so, you know,
Yeah.
we've got to be careful what we do here in this town.
So my leftover money, I'm putting in towards signs. So we're rolling over.
Yeah, because that's why we cut it last year, and we had talked to you about that. It was, I believe it was about
But I told
10,000
Salt
out of
you
that.
gotta watch.
Yeah, at
Unless Mike
the
said
least,
you'd warn us.
because it was like 40,000 or 60,000 over, and it was, that's why we did
It
that.
seemed like
But
we had a lot of extra
It
still
was a
left over,
lot,
yeah.
and that's why we did that.
You do this year because of the rollover from last year I used. I
Right,
try to use the roll up first.
right, and that's what we were doing. I mean,
Well, all of Broad Brook was out of the rollover too.
and I was unaware of all
It
this.
is a balancing act, because you shouldn't be spending money frivolously just so you get the state and federal money. If we don't need...
No, I don't mean
You know,
that. I
so it
mean-
is a balancing act, but we
Yeah.
have to, because money's going to be very, very tight in the
And
state
that's-
this year, so we have to be very careful.
So I didn't know it was
That's
over
where I was going.
over the whole,
It's the whole-
a whole highway department budget, because you have 1, 2, 3 different
Category.
departments or categories,
That's what it
yes,
broke down
along
to the
with their
state.
little itemized categories within those.
So we need to know from every
So
department.
it's every one of
Is there
them.
a section of this budget that we get state and federal money for?
Wow.
And if we cut this section, you know, archiving is a big, and this is just coming off the top of my head. The state was offering money, we have to archive our records. The state was offering money to do it. Well, if you don't do it while the state's accepting offering the money, you still got to do it anyway, because that's the law. So let's do it while the state's helping us instead of doing it 100% on Vernon's dime.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree.
When I did the paving for Tyler Hill Road, that's when I put in for the signs. They're not paying for the signs on Class 2 no more because it's got to be,
So expensive.
Too expensive.
Right.
but at least they're covering.
I know, because you had waited for these signs for quite some time. Am I correct?
Well, we've had some of them we have been waiting for.
Yeah.
But, the government's telling everybody they need to cut back, cut back, cut
Mm-hmm.
back,
Yep.
and then they're pulling...
And they're passing laws, that's where the whole unfunded mandate comes from. They're passing laws that we're challenged to abide by, but yet they're not paying for it. So we have to make sure that when they are paying for it, we're taking every penny we can get.
Lowest pasture road sign used to be a 3-foot single post. It's 60 inches, 2 posts.
Wow.
Anything over 4 feet's on 2 posts.
It's ridiculous.
Stupid.
It's ridiculous. They have nothing else to do to make our lives miserable.
You got 3 highway guys that will agree with you.
Well,
But, ridiculous or not, we have to abide by the law.
Yep.
Thank you for that insight.
And I think that was it.
Well, should I, because I messed up so badly with the David thing.
What
with
did you
this,
mess up?
Because I forgot to go over this with him.
No worries.
Not a big
No,
deal.
you didn't.
I think I tried to get a hold of him, but
No,
it was
no, no,
hard
no,
to
you didn't need to go over. I just, no, don't worry about it.
Right. Because I just assumed step down.
No.
Take a chill pill.
Oh, stop.
You didn't mess up.
All right.
I wish I
Okay.
was as organized as you are.
Yeah.
We done?
Is there anything else?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any media? Thank you.
My sister's still here visiting.